Goal Getting Podcast, Episode 18.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook and 30-day free trial at www.goalgettingbook.com. Over 150,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player.
Hello, goal getters. Do you have these negative, limiting beliefs that keep you from getting the goals you set? Well, let's listen to the Goal Getting Podcast and turn them into positive, success-seeking beliefs and thoughts. Change your subconscious mind and get the goals you're set. This is Tony Woodall with the Goal Getting Podcast, and we're going to show you how. You can succeed. You are
Fear missing an opportunity more than you fear failure.
Hello, goal getters. I'm so excited to introduce our guest to you today. I've listened to Aaron Walker on several of the top podcasts and have been inspired each time that I listen to him. Aaron Walker is without question a veteran entrepreneur. Starting his first business at 18 and selling to a Fortune 500 company 9 short years later demonstrates Aaron's passion for success. Unwilling to rest on those past successes alone, Aaron started, bought, and sold 8 successful companies over the past 36 years. Having a strong desire for personal development has kept Aaron in a weekly mastermind group for more than a decade with Dave Ramsey, Dan Miller, Ken Abraham, and 7 other notable Nashvillians. Aaron has enjoyed a 35-year marriage with his beautiful wife, Robin. And Aaron's going to be sharing some great stories with us today about setting and achieving goals, developing good habits and routines, having accountability partners in your life, and living on purpose. So, Aaron, welcome to Goal Getting Podcast.
Thank you very much, Tony. You said some of the notable podcasts in the community. The Goal Getting Podcast, is very notable. So, hey, I'm happy to be on your show.
I appreciate that, Aaron. And, you know, I really have loved listening to your story, and it's been very inspiring to me. I was, like I said, every time that I hear it. And I know that our listeners will be as well. Can you tell us a little bit about your story?
Sure. Let me go back. Can I do that? Can I go back and give a little backstory how I got started?
Please do.
Because this is a real important part for me in goal setting. But at 13 years old, I started working at a local pawn shop in Nashville, Tennessee. At 15 years old, I discovered I wanted to make that a career. I went to summer school and night school for a couple of years. I had enough credits at the beginning of my junior year in high school to graduate, so I started working every day. Met 2 very successful men that were in the insurance business in Nashville. They had been buying diamonds and gold from me for years, and I really just decided that I would approach them. I had nothing to lose, so I went to these guys and said, have you guys ever considered going in the pawn shop business? And they laughed at me, and they said, how old are you? And I said, I'm 18. They said, well, let us think about it. So they checked on me at my church and at school and the community members and found out, you know, I wasn't Charles Manson, that I could carry on like I said I would. So we went in business. Tony, I can't believe that those guys did that at the time, but we went to the bank and borrowed $150,000. That was a lot of money in 1979. Mm-hmm. And we opened our first business. They wanted to borrow the money because they wanted me to sign on the note. Mm-hmm. So we took out a 10-year loan, and for $150,000 opened our first pawn shop. Well, Tony, we paid that off in 36 months. Wow. Business was just phenomenal, and God really blessed our business and our efforts. At 21 years old, I bought my second store, and I repeated that 4 times. I was 27 years old. Cash America from Fort Worth, Texas came to town. They were growing through acquisition. And, Tony, they just gave me an offer I couldn't refuse. So at 27 years old, I kind of hung it up and said, I'm finished. And I soon found out that that wasn't the best of decisions. I was getting in the bed in the middle of the day. I was extremely bored. I gained 50 pounds in 18 months.
Oh, wow.
I had no purpose. I had no reason to get up. So my wife encouraged me to go back to work, and I did. Went back to the store that I left from when I was 18 and bought 50% of it. We spent the next 10 years building a very successful business, and that's at the time I met Dave Ramsey. He came into my store and made an offer for me to do advertising on his show, and I've now been on Dave's show every day for 20 years. Wow. Since he started in 1995. We became very good friends. He invited me to his mastermind group, and it really was a catalyst for future growth. 2001, Tony, I had a horrific automobile accident. I was on my way to the office. A pedestrian was crossing the street, didn't see me, ran out in front of me to catch the bus, and unfortunately, he didn't make it. At that time, I had to make some really tough decisions. I had to think, am I going to continue to look for success? And I realized there was no significance in my life. Everything I was doing, Tony, was inward. It was all about myself. It was looking to get another dollar, open another store, take a nicer vacation. So my wife and I got together and we talked, and we decided we were going to sell out. We were going to take a break. Went to my partner and told him what my plans were, and he understood completely. So we took the next 5 years off. We changed locations, built a new house, and we just decided to reevaluate what the remainder of our career and our personal lives was going to be, and went into the construction business 5 years later and did that for 8 years, and we were very successful there. We took that to the number one builder in Middle Tennessee 3 consecutive years. And then, Tony, for the third and final time, I think I retired at 50 years old, and I started View from the Top, at which I coach men. I'm the facilitator of Iron Sharpens Iron mastermind groups, and I get to spend each and every day encouraging men across the globe to reach their aspirations, to grow, to obtain goals that they never thought was possible. So I'm just having a blast right now.
Well, that sounds phenomenal. That event that changed your life must have been, obviously it was very monumental. And, I know a lot of people have things like that happened. And, how you said it affected you, and what did that start with, building this life of significance? What, how did that, transpond into
Sure.
that? Can you expand on that?
Yeah, I would love to. Well, I had to ask myself some very difficult questions along the way, and I didn't strategically sit down and do it in the manner by which I'm about to explain it, but I just want to put it in some succinct order where you can kind of understand the train of thought over a 5-year period. I had to decide, first of all, what the definition of success was to me, and that definition is very broad to a lot of people. It means a lot of different things. And Tony, I think a lot of us want success. And for me, it was, first of all, from a carnal perspective, it was having financial freedom and great stability. And then I wanted to have an engaging family and meaningful relationships. That is very important to me in my success. I'm very family oriented. I have a beautiful wife of 35 years. I have 2 daughters, 32 and 29, and 4 grandchildren. And I absolutely want to have an engaging family and meaningful relationships. Then I thought through a few of the other things that was important to me, and it was having a clear conscience. Being able to lay down in bed at night and think that I've done exactly what I should do each and every day. And then it was taking care of myself. I realized that gaining 50 pounds is not a real healthy thing to do. So get myself back in shape was successful. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I learned in success was learning how to be content without being complacent. And I'll explain that just a little bit. We choose to be happy. It's a choice, not a trait. And so I feel like that we need to, in every situation that we're in, learn to be content, but not be complacent to the point that we don't want to aspire, that we don't want to go forward and grow. So those things were important to me. And then having a real clear sense of direction. If we don't know where we're going, how can we get there? And so we have to have a very defined set of goals and a sense of direction. And I'm a dreamer, Tony. I don't know about you, but I love to dream and I love to establish goals. I may not hit every one of them, but I know I'm not going to hit things that I don't dream about.
Right.
And so trusting in a higher power is important to me. I'm a Christ follower. And so for me, success meant trusting in a higher power. Then I wanted to have meaning and purpose in my life. And at the end of the day, Tony, when I die, I want people to say that was a wise man.
Mm-hmm. And you tell a story about your father, and I'm sorry he passed away. I lost my mother a couple of years ago, so I certainly understand that. But you tell a story about your father that's very inspirational as well, about living on purpose and having significance in your life. Did you share that was?
Yeah, I'll be happy to. My dad was my best friend. We got the pleasure to work together for a number of years. I hired him in a company that I owned, and we got to spend the last 10 years of his life working together each and every day. But my dad didn't care anything about making money, and from the onset, and we proved that by the way we lived. You know, we lived in an 800 square foot house. There were 4 children. My dad probably never made over $15,000 a year in his life. He wanted to hunt and fish and enjoy his family. And my dad was very relational. You would love my dad, Tony. If you met my dad, you'd want to hug him. And it was evident that when my dad died in 2006, we got to the funeral home, day of visitation, and the doors were to open at 3:00. At 2:30, the line started forming. In the next 6 hours, I stood at the casket and greeted people that were there to pay their condolences. And the line was to the parking lot for 6 hours. And everybody said, let me tell you what your dad meant to me. Let me tell you how your dad impacted my life. Let me tell you what your dad said just at the right time. And it was all relational. Not one person in 6 hours said anything about my dad's house, his boat, his car, his money. Everything that came out of everyone's mouth was about relationships. And it really showed me then the value of putting yourself into others, encouraging, empowering, being a servant leader. And my dad taught me that without a question, by accident. He didn't even mean to as a child, but I just know that through the impact of his life, how it affected everyone. And so for me now, the relationships is absolutely number one.
That's great. You know, and that really goes to show, and that's one of the things I try to teach on, you know, the Goal Getting podcast is that people need to know what their success is for them in life. You know, it's not just financial reward. It's not just being a millionaire. It's not just, you know, doing it. You can be happy in what you're doing. And, you know, that, and just being impactful to other people's lives is a success. And that's a definite goal to achieve, I think, with people. And, you know, when you're out working on your goals, that should be one of them, I think, you know, or if it is one of them, you know, for you, that's great, you know, and that's the things you need to work on, not just financial type goals and things like that. So,
well, Tony, that's where the significant part came in for me. I had to say, you know, what is it that I'm missing? And what I found that I was missing was meeting the needs of others. I wasn't inputting, helping, parting my knowledge and wisdom and experience onto others. And then I started thinking, well, how can I do that? And so I proactively went about doing that. And then I thought, I'm going to help others even though they can't repay me. See, a lot of the times our motivation is to do something for someone to get something out of it. Right. But when you help others and they can't repay you, then to me that is significant. And then I thought about, you know, I'm busy, right? I'm a businessman. I've got a lot of businesses and I'm busy. Well, then I thought, well, what if I help people and come to their aid when it's not convenient? Like I've made it now priority to them. And then I thought about in every business I've ever owned, one of the key to my successes has been providing above and beyond the expected amount or the minimal requirement. I want to underpromise and overperform in whatever widget I'm selling, whatever service I'm providing. I want to give more than the customer is paying for. The other thing that was important to me is I felt like a lot of times people looked at me and thought, well, he should help. He should give because he's got excess. And then I thought, I want to learn to give out of obedience rather than out of compulsion. Right. I want to learn to give because I should give out of my heart, because I want to give, not because I should. So when I started thinking about all these significant areas of my life, I thought I'm doing some of these things, but some of them are for the wrong motivation. Some are for the wrong reason. And so I need to change my heart. I need to think about why I'm doing these things. And then it came to me that I need to place my personal wants and desires aside for the benefit of others. That's really the reciprocity out of that will come. People will help you as a direct result of you placing your personal wants and desires, whether it be in business or in your family. Place those aside. And then I found out, you know what I need to do? I've got to deprive myself of some things for the sake of others. I've got to say, I don't need a bigger boat, a shinier car, a faster motorcycle, a bigger house. I'm doing just good, fine, right here. I can be content with these things and I can have these things. People ask me all the time, what are some of the things that I've done related to significance? And I've decided that I have to delay my personal gratification for the greater good, right? I can't have everything right now. And so I've got to put some of the things off. And then learning to invest in long-term matters, that will impact generations to come. I want to be around to see the investments that I make impact others. And here's something that I tell people every day. If you really want to be significant in a conversation with your client, with your family, stop waiting your turn to talk and truly engage. Most people are thinking about what they want to say rather than listening to the person that they're engaging with. So those are just a few of the things, Tony, that I've identified in my life that could be successful and significant.
Thank you, Aaron. Those are, like I said, inspiring to me. I've tried to live a passionate life, and I talk about passion and live on purpose. And, it just really inspires me to hear people talk about that as, a goal that they have and that we should have. And I think that's where we need to go. And I really appreciate your sharing those things with us today.
Oh, thank you.
You're talking about mastermind groups, and that's, again, one of the things that I didn't do when I was younger that I wish I had. And I think a lot of people need to be aware of what a mastermind group is and how that has helped you, and what do you recommend for, types of mastermind groups, or, what to look for in there. I know you've belonged to one for, 20 years with a small group, and we see a lot of people, and I think you have one as well, where you have a group mastermind, a larger group. How do those work, and how can people, find out more about those and, get engaged with that and build those relationships in those groups?
Sure. A lot of people ask me, podcast host, what would you tell your younger self, right? If you could go back in time. Without a doubt, I would say the sooner the better to be involved in a mastermind group. You can call it different things. You can call it an accountability group, your personal group, a mastermind. It doesn't matter what you call it.
Right.
What is important is that you get together with a group of people that are of like mind. It can be very diverse. It doesn't have to be the same product or services that you're offering. But the point is that you're honorable, credible, you're people of character, that you want to move the needle. You want to go forward. You want to learn. You want to serve others well, and do that on a regular basis. And a lot of people do it by phone. They'll have one buddy they'll call, or they'll, twice a year get together. That's not a mastermind group the way I see it. The way I see it is regular. And when I say regular, I've literally been doing this now 20 years weekly. Mm-hmm. And I lead 3 groups now. I'm involved in a group with Dan Miller. I was in the Eagles, which is Dave Ramsey's group, for over a decade. We met in Dave's office. Do it regularly, hour and a half a week, every week. And when you do that, you have trusted advisors. And let me explain that, Tony. If I go to my wife or my children or a close family member and I ask about this idea, they're going to kind of test the air a little bit. They're going to see what I really want to do, and they're going to kind of favor with me as a rule. And so that's not a non-biased opinion. I can go to a coworker or a partner, and they're going to kind of side with what they think it should be. But when you go to people that you've invested 10, 12 years with, they have no skin in the game. They're non-biased. They're your trusted advisors. They're going to give you an honest answer. Recently, there was a business deal I was going to do, and I thought it was a good idea. I genuinely thought it was a good idea. I went to 12 people one at a time and told them the scenario. 11 of the 12 told me not to do it. Mm-hmm. They brought up so many great ideas that I just didn't take that perspective. Mm-hmm. And once they pointed it out, I didn't make the decision, and it has to be one of the best non-decisions I've ever made.
Yeah.
And so I'm just saying that it is paramount. Carnegie states all of his billions he attributes to his mastermind group, people that he could entrust and talk through situations. So, yeah, I'd get one sooner than later.
Great. I appreciate that. That's, like I said, one of the things that if I had a regret that I didn't do in my early life, that's one of them. I should have done that much sooner. And I've known about mastermind groups. I just never took the initiative to actually get into a mastermind group. Sometimes you listen to the wrong people and, even family members and friends, and you have to be careful about that. You really need that outside subjective opinions, I think, from, as you people say, people without skin in the game sometimes. So,
well, Tony, here's what I do with regrets. I don't give much thought to it because no matter what, you can't undo it. And
Exactly.
some of your listeners that are out there today, it doesn't matter what you've done or not done, because you can't change it by spending 1 minute of energy or effort on either the regrets. What you can do is something today. We can go. I tell everybody that's why we have a big windshield and a little bitty rear view mirror, because we're going to spend most of our time looking out the windshield rather than the rear view mirror.
Oh, that's great. I like that analogy. I hadn't thought about that.
Well, you want to glance back there occasionally just to remember, but what's important is what's in front of you.
Cool. Yeah, that's great. Do you have a quote that you live by? I mean, just some of the things I'll probably use some of your stuff as my quotes going forward. Some of the things you shared today, but do you have a quote that you live by?
Well, here's what you can do. You can give me credit for it today, and you repeat it 3 times, and then it can become your own. You can tell everybody this was your quote. So that's what I tell everybody. I say, first 3 times, I'll give you credit for it. After that, I'm going to own it. But when I was a child, my mom would not allow us to say can't. And I didn't know what that was all about until I got older. And she had a little saying. It was can't, couldn't do it, and could did it all. And out of that, she said, you might not be able to do it, but you're going to try. Well, as a direct result of that, the more things you try, the more successful you are. And so it developed within me a great amount of self-esteem, because things that she forced me to try, I was successful at. And so I've even got it behind my desk. It's right here on the wall. It says can't, couldn't do it, could, did it all. Another thing that's really important for me to think about, the biggest hurdle everybody has to overcome is fear. Mm-hmm. They're afraid of something. We need to identify what that is. But I say fear missing an opportunity more than you fear failure. And I taught my children at an early age that failure is in not succeeding. Failure is in not trying. And I said, you may at some point do something and it didn't turn out the way you wanted, but that didn't mean you failed. To me, people that fail sit on the couch and watch reruns of Oprah, and they are not attempting it. I'd rather you attempt it. So I couldn't lay in bed at night, Tony, wondering, would that have worked? I've got to go for it. And I'm not suggesting you put your family at risk, but I'm not risk averse. I'm all about taking calculated risk. Be careful. Don't go out there and do something crazy. Get trusted advisors. When you get really good counsel from 10 or 12 people and they're successful in their own right, historically, that idea is probably going to work. If they tell you not to do it, listen to it. Take the counsel of the multitudes and run from it. So, yeah, those are 2 things. Can't, couldn't do it. Could, did it all. By my mom. They called her Nanny Lou. And then the second thing is fear missing an opportunity more than you fear failure.
Nanny Lou, huh? That's your mom. Wow. All right. And those are 2 great quotes, and I appreciate sharing those, and I probably will claim those eventually.
Go ahead, Tony. I'm giving you permission.
I appreciate it.
Okay, buddy.
My mom had some wonderful wisdom as well that she shared, and I really appreciate that as I got older, going there, sometimes the things that parents tell their children they don't necessarily agree with, but when we raise great children, we know that we did a good job, so that's good. Now, I know you're also a voracious reader. You do read a lot, and when you're talking about fears, I know I've been reading Napoleon Hill's Outwitting the Devil recently, and he's got some great quotes in there and some great things about fear. Do you read or have a recommendation of books that have been inspiring to you, or things that you would recommend to our listeners that are trying to achieve their goals?
Absolutely. There's a few books that I've enjoyed reading recently, and there's a couple of classics. First of all, as I told you earlier, one of the best book for me has been the Bible, because I'm a Christ follower, so I read it every day. It's got a great amount of wisdom in it and kind of helps me get through the day, and I understand exactly the spiritual implications that derive from that. Another great book is Greg McCowan's Essentialism. And if you haven't read that, man, it's a fantastic book. A lot of the guys here locally have read it and said it's one of the best books they've read in 3 or 4 years. But it's really just talking about getting the non-essentials out of our life and focusing on the vital few things that are really important. Tony, most people think that they can do 10 or 15 things well, and we really just distribute our energy among that. And Greg teaches that rather than being a mile wide and an inch deep, why don't we niche down to 2 or 3 things that you really enjoy that empower you and encourage you, and be an inch wide and a mile deep? Spend the same amount of effort and energy, but do it on less things. Mm-hmm. And the book walks you through that just masterfully. And I would recommend that book. A classic for me is How to Win Friends and Influence People. And if you're a human being, you need to read that book, because it so teaches you how to invest in other people and listen. And that book has transformed many lives. So those are 2 books I would recommend highly.
Excellent. I've heard a lot about essentialism. I'm going to have to pick that one up. And I've read How to Win Friends and Influence People years ago. I might have to pick it up again as well. And you talk about relationships, and that you've mentioned that a couple times today. And I want to touch on that briefly if you've got time to really talk about relationships, because I believe strongly in relationships in business, providing value. One of the things in business when I'm doing networking that I hate is, when I'm on LinkedIn, on social is really bad these days, is people trying to sell you things before you even know them. And, I'm really big on relationship building, providing value before you do that. And I think that's the way. So, relationships have been very key to you, you mentioned. So again, quickly expound on that if you wouldn't mind.
Sure. I was recently in San Diego at the social media conference, and I was talking to Chris Brogan, and Chris got up and gave a speech, and then afterwards I went up and talked to him. But during his speech, he said, "Now listen, don't you guys come up and ask me to do things for you until you get to know me." Mm-hmm. And I thought that was pretty profound, and that's the way it is. Vanderchuck wrote a book, jab, 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 right hook.
Right.
And it's just a boxing analogy of what we should do in life and in business is give, give, give. Now you have an opportunity to ask. And I spend probably 25% of my day, every day, giving. And I'm not saying that from a boastful standpoint. I'm just saying it from a reality standpoint, that the best thing you can do is send emails of encouragement, send text to lift somebody up, call somebody on the phone at random. And I tell people when I teach them how to do business, I say, genuinely mean this. Don't do it for the wrong motivation, but take your phone, go through your address book and say, I hadn't talked to Tony in a while. Give him a call and do not ask for anything, because Tony, you know well as I do, every time your phone rings, you look down at your phone and it's Billy, and you think, this is going to be good, this is going to be bad, he's going to suck the life out of me, or he's going to encourage. Something comes to your mind every time you look at every phone call that comes in. Well, I want to be that guy that's the encourager. It's like they can't wait to answer, because I'm going to lift them up. I'm not going to suck the life out of them. And then every time somebody calls you, they'll say, oh, by the way, while I've got you, let me ask you a question. And I always want to go, you liar, that's what you called me for. And what I want to encourage people to do is call Tony to see how Tony is, and see how your wife is and your children, and how your business is, how your day's going, and then say, have a good day. Well, that leaves an indelible impression on people. It's like he really called to check on me. And so I'm just saying, develop that kind of mindset to call people and check on them. And then some point, someday, you're going to need something, and Tony's not going to mind doing it, because you call him to check on him. He's happy to do the reciprocity and help you. So we have to genuinely do that. Don't do it for the wrong motivation. Don't do it for the wrong reason. Just genuinely do that. Well, out of that comes great relationships. If you'll just take that one approach, spend time with people, help people succeed. Tony, I've had people go in direct competition with me that worked for me, and I went and helped them set up their location.
Oh, wow.
Well, why not, right?
Exactly. Yeah, no, I totally agree.
We're to help people. I tell everybody that, if you will try to help other people get what they want, you'll be successful. Just naturally, you'll be successful. So, go out there and help people.
Great. That's again, great value that you're adding there to people. And because, again, you continually inspire me. Those are some of the things. I did a lot of work with BNI, Business Networking International, and they, foster the giver's gain mentality, always giving more than you ask for. So,
speaking of giving, Tony, I've got a little something I want to give your audience, if that's okay.
Oh, that's wonderful. What can you...
Well, there's 3 things that I do on a daily basis when I coach, and there are 3 documents I wrote. One of them is called a personal assessment, to where you sit and look at yourself, answer these 30 or 40 questions. They're just real personal questions that you ask yourself. No one has to see them but you. There's another document I wrote called What Do I Want? And in this document, you go out on the porch alone or with your mate and you answer 30 questions. It's like, what do we want to accomplish this month? What do we want to accomplish in 3 years, in 5 years, when we retire? What do we want to instill in our children? If I were to get up today and there were no geographic or financial limitations, what would I do with my life? How can I live my life intentionally? How can I live on purpose and stop living reactively and start living proactively, so I can get a game plan as to how I want my life to look? Robin and I have been doing that for 35 years. We want to live our life very intentional. Then people say, well, I get it. I've got a personal assessment. I know who I am. I know now what I want, but I don't know what to do. And so I wrote a document called Steps to a Productive Day, and it's in a Word document. You can fill it out every day. It's about 3 pages long. It asks you about 24 questions as to how you can have a very productive day today. And you know, life is just a series of productive days. I have developed a web link for you. It's called viewfromthetop.com/GGP, all in lowercase. And I'm going to give you these documents. I don't want you to buy them. I'm going to give them away. Go there to the landing page, viewfromthetop.com/GGP, and take those documents. And I hope it's a catalyst for you to achieve your goals.
Thank you very much, Aaron. That's, viewfromthetop.com/GGP goal getters. I'll put those on the show notes today, so that you have those. Go out there and, pick up those gifts from Aaron out there. I think that will help you and me. I'll be downloading them myself and start working on them, today. And so go out there and get those again at viewfromthetop.com/GGP. Thank you so much, Aaron.
You're welcome.
You're doing that for our listeners.
Absolutely.
And, we're running out of time, and I just want to, ask if there's any last words of wisdom that you might have for the listeners today. Again, we're here trying to achieve goals and set goals properly so that we can do those. Do you have any words of wisdom that we can,
Sure. Well,
other than the, vast amount you've already given to us.
Yeah, a few parting words.
Yeah, a few parting words.
Here's the thing, anybody can accomplish what they want if they're willing to invest the grit, the determination, the perseverance, if you have something that you wildly believe in. And I'm very much proof of that, because I had no one. When I was young and growing up, I've already told you, we came from humble beginnings. My mom put canned goods in the pantry. We nailed a board over them during the summer so we'd have something to eat in the winter. So I know all about being broke and being poor. But my mom and dad instilled in us a sense of work ethic, morals, values. And I took that. I didn't go to college. I got out of high school in the 10th grade. So, I had enough credits to graduate. I just had the initiative to go after it harder and longer to get out quicker, because I didn't want to be in school. I wanted to work. So all I'm saying is you don't necessarily need that document from an institution, although I'm not knocking education. I think education is wonderful. But I'm saying if you want to do something, if you're willing to delay gratification and you're willing to work hard, put that effort and energy and the resources behind it, regardless of what your goal is, you can achieve it if you really want it. So I would just say, if you've got a passion, go out there and get it.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Hello, goal getters. Aaron has made some great recommendations for book Essentialism by Greg McKeown and How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. And I just want to let you know that for the listeners of Goal Getting Podcasts, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. If you want to listen to these books that Aaron recommends, then you can download your free audiobook today by going to goalgettingbook.com. And again, that's goalgettingbook.com for your free audiobook. Thank you for listening and have a great day. And we appreciate you listening to Aaron. I hope you got a lot out of that interview with him today. He is a phenomenal person. You can go to his website, viewfromthetop.com, and check him out. I encourage you to do that. He talks about mastermind groups. He's got his Iron Sharpens Iron mastermind group, and he's starting a new community, Iron Tribe, that he's opening up in the next few days. So if you want to check that out, go to viewfromthetop.com and check out Aaron Walker there. Thank you, Aaron, for being on our show. Thank you guys for listening. You can go to goalgettingpodcast.com and check out our show notes at goalgettingpodcast.com/Aaron, AARON, and you'll be able to find all the information and the links there in the show notes. So thank you very much, and hope you guys have a great day. Thank you again for listening. I'd like to thank my good friend, Mark Sensinger from marksensinger.com. Mark created Baccarat, the music you just heard, for the Goal Getting podcast, and I really want to thank Mark for that. If you need any type of music, Mark is an excellent composer. He's done some things for Boston Pops, done a few things for other orchestras in the New England area. Go visit marksensinger.com and check out some of the great work that he's done. And he can do it for you. He can provide you with music for a bar mitzvah, bachelorette party, or your own wedding tune. You know, that would be a wonderful thing to have your own wedding composition created by an artist like Mark Sensinger at marksensinger.com. So Mark's a good friend. Check him out. Go visit him and his webpage and see if he can write something for you like he did for us at Goal Getting Podcast with that great piece, Baccarat.